very much for hosting this and Wendy for moderating. And thank you, Crossroads 2 and Southwest Civic Association. My name is Pamela Tucson. I'm honored to be running for mayor. I'm a city councilwoman currently. I'm a lifelong resident of Chula Vista, born and raised here. I raised my kids here. They went to local schools. My parents actually moved to Chula Vista in the 1940s. I established my business here, which is now a successful appraisal practice. I serve clients all over the country. And I'm looking forward to continuing my participation on the city council as mayor. I really have a lot to bring to that position, which I will get to later. I'm about to run out of time. I came to this civic engagement in 1996 when I bought a historic home called Greg Rogers Historic House. Not too long after that, I was organizing my neighbors to have historic home tours. We raised money for historic preservation in Chula Vista and for the Heritage Museum. Not shortly after that, I was appointed to the Resource Conservation Commission at a time when we were analyzing environmental impact reports. I also participated on the General Plan Update Steering Committee and the Third Avenue Village Association Design Committee at a time when we were doing the study for what would become the streetscape makeover on Third Avenue. That was our project that we were working on. And eventually I was appointed in 2005 to the Planning Commission. And from there I decided in 2008 to run for City Council. I love Chula Vista. I wanted to be able to continue my work and have a greater impact on the future of our city, so I chose to run. I was elected in 2008, and I was re-elected as your city councilwoman in 2012.
Thank you again. I'm Jerry Minden, and I'm honored to be a candidate for the mayor of Chula Vista. This is a very critical election, and two big thank yous to us tonight. First of all, I want to thank all three organizations for sponsoring this forum. It is important that you're involved because who you elect and who is the leader of the city does make a difference. And we saw that example play out very well in the city of San Diego. So the selection of your next mayor is a very critical decision, and so I thank all three organizations, Crossroads 2, Southwest Civic Association, and NBC Channel 7 for sponsoring and hosting this tonight. And the other thank you is to all of you for being here because you care to make a difference, and I appreciate that very much. I'm just going to talk about my background very briefly because I've been born and raised in Chula Vista all my life. My parents came here. The only street that was actually paved in the city of Chula Vista was Third Avenue. And we've come a long ways since then. I've really enjoyed providing community service and being a part of the engagement of making a difference in the city. As part of my background, I served 16 years on the city council, the longest serving council member in the history of the city. Within those 16 years, I served 6 years as deputy mayor of the city. So what's critical is not so much my background and all the issues, but the fact that in each of the positions, I have had a leadership role. In addition to that, last year I was president of the Chula Vista Chamber of Commerce, which is nearly 800 businesses in the city, and changed that organization immensely. I was also a leader on the Transportation Committee for Sandag for a number of years, Scripps Hospital Board, Library Board of Trustees for the city of Chula Vista, and previously I just served 10 years as principal at Hilltop High School, and also as assistant superintendent prior to that of development and continuing education. We got the #1 program in the nation. So I thank you for having this forum. I thank all of you for being here, and please make a decision that can provide the leadership, because these positions aren't just a resume, the leadership within each of those positions. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Mary Sellis, and I'm running for mayor of Chula Vista. And I'm so happy to see all of you here because this is a very important choice. The choice that you make in the election for mayor is going to determine the style of leadership that we have for the following 8 years. And leadership style does matter. Like Jerry, my family came here in 1919, and actually Third Avenue was paved in 1923, the year my father was born here in Chula Vista. So I think that what you're seeing here is three candidates that have very strong roots in the community, and I think that each of us are motivated by the love of this city and wanting in our own way to become the next mayor and take it to another level of greatness in Chula Vista. We live in a wonderful city, and the proof is in the pudding. We just recently did a survey of all our residents who said that Chula Vista was a wonderful place to live. 81% of our population believe that they live in a good city. It's a wonderful city. Is it a perfect city? No. Do we have a great future ahead of us? Absolutely. The way that we take our city forward is going to determine the quality of life that we have here for generations to come. You know, whether or not we rise from a bedroom community that is low and that has a housing balance and a job balance that's way out of whack. We need to have a mayor that has experience in economic development like I do. A mayor that has a proven record of actually bringing companies here, not just talking about it, but knowing how to do it as an economic development professional, where I worked at California Trade and Commerce Agency for over 7 years. And I think that that's a big difference in the qualities that we bring to the table, is the depth of the experience. It's not just that I worked in government or, served, worked in those limited areas of government, but I actually did work for companies. Thank you very much, and I'll be explaining more of my positions later on, but thanks for being here. It really is.
When I joined the council in 2008, the Bayfront project, master plan project, was pretty much stalled. And one of the first things I turned my focus on was getting that EIR back on track so that we could move forward with that. We have done all the regulatory hurdles. The other thing that I worked very hard on was decommissioning the power plant, because without the power plant going away, the Bayfront would not be developed, and we all knew that. This is a 40-year process. We are now on the verge of having a quality development. Our port commissioner and more will be giving a full report on the status of the situation. They're about to launch their request for proposals, their RFP. At our next council meeting on Tuesday afternoon, there will be a presentation about our status on the port. The most exciting thing to happen recently is punching through the H Street corridor, so that by the end of the year, you'll be able to drive down H Street and arrive at the marina. This is another tangible evidence of things moving forward. So we're very excited that we will have a beautiful bayfront development with over 200 acres of open space and parks, and we're all looking forward to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wendy. The Bayfront is one of the major reasons I'm running, because I want to see it done. As Pamela said, yes, over 40 years of it. It's been ridiculous that, with the exception of Nature Perkins Center, our citizens have been denied access to that Bayfront. Of the 550 acres, 260 acres of the proposal that has been approved by everybody, all the environmental use, this open space and parkland. And I submit to you, it's important that we have access for our residents to have an opportunity to have access to the Bayfront. And it does something else. When we were beginning the 1990s, I was elected to the council for the first time, and the economy was just starting to get better, and we had to get stuff done, such as Rancho Del Rey and East Lake and Old High Ranch Town Center, and we got it done. We did the plan. I was one of 5 council members that actually planned all that land use and smart growth, and I think we did a pretty good job, because it's one thing talking about supporting a position or advocating something. It's something about having the experience, and that's what I offer you, and that's what the big difference for you tonight is. I've had the experience, and we put together the proposal for Rancho Del Rey, East Lake, Old High Ranch Town Center, and got it done. We now need to get the Bayfront done, and that's important. As a former high school principal, it's just truly insulting that the second largest city doesn't have a place for a senior prom, or have that in our own backyard, and have what I call what I call the triangular trade between Chula Vista, Coronado, San
Okay, we're gonna have Mrs. Allen. I think that what's happened on the Bayfront is that we've got the master Bayfront plan approved by the Coastal Commission, so that's just a blueprint. The detail of that is something that's going to be actually, the Port Commission is responsible for sending out a request for proposal for developers, and we have to make sure that the Bayfront gets developed properly. It's going to be a long-term project. It's taken over 40 years to get to us to this point. So what we really have to be honest with the community is, it's not going to be built overnight. And you're not going to be seeing hotels and condos and all of those things immediately. That's going to take time. It's going to be an incremental development, and we have to support those projects that are ready to go. We also have to protect the businesses that are already on the Bayfront. We have a powerful economic engine in the marine group on the Bayfront. We have to not turn aside our backs on those kinds of well-paying jobs and chase them out of our Bayfront for the purpose of attracting low-paying hotels here. I think that that's a very big difference between myself and my opponents. We have to nurture the businesses that we have at hand. We have to see that those businesses grow. We can't afford to change the way those businesses on something that is going to evolve over time. We have to make sure that our Bayfront is good for everyone. One of the things that sets me and my opponents apart as well is I bought SDG&E. I bought them to make sure that we got the best undergrounding. They were supporting the SDG&E position.
Well, there's no argument that the number one thing we want to get done is ensure that the Bayfront does advance, because that is so important, not just for the Bayfront, but you can see the ripple effect it has to Third Avenue. Because I see not only will it revitalize the west side of Chula Vista, but I also see that it will have an impact on Third Avenue, and we have, boutique stores and restaurants, and really revitalize the west side. And what was at jeopardy at that point in time, and I was part of the council that in 2004 pushed to get the best deal done with SDG&E, to ensure that we did not jeopardize the project moving forward. And that's very, very critical. And once that was secure, then we can continue negotiations. And you know what? The Bayfront means more than just the Bayfront and the hotels and the access. It means a lot to the economy for the city of Chula Vista. Because as we saw in the 1990s, with the change of the economy getting a little better, that Bayfront would be the trigger to revitalize Western Chula Vista and provide the additional resources for adding police and firemen, for dealing with pension reform, dealing with potholes. Because the only way you deal with a budget is you either cut the expenditures or add revenue. Well, the city of Chula Vista has been cutting for 7 years. Enough of that. We need to add revenue like we did in the 1990s when we did the advance of Woodhigh Ranch down Central East Lake. And that's where we are, and that's why this is important.
The question was, what was our position on the undergrounding of the substation? And I think Mr. Ridden just got a little off track. And my position was firm. I, like Councilmember Jerry Rinden, were on the same council in 2004, where we signed a memorandum of understanding with SDG&E that said all the underground, everything within the local coastal plan of the Bayfront would be undergrounded. That's what the memorandum of understanding said, that everything should be underground. And instead, there were some people that believed the scare tactics of SDG&E, that the power plant would not come down, that the substation would not be moved to a less obtrusive spot on the Bayfront, but only if we allowed more high wires on our Bayfront. I fought that because there was a memorandum of understanding that was signed by Jerry, by myself, and by the other city council members at that time. And yet, they allowed the pressure of SDG&E, the scare tactics, to rule the day. Councilmember Pat Aguilar and I stood firm against SDG&E. We will continue to do so. We didn't get our way on the undergrounding of the Bayfront. Some of the wire, we are going to be stuck with some of that because we just did not stand firm. And that's why our community gets second best options in this area. And I'm going to fight to make sure we get the best.
This is a very technical subject, which actually requires a lot more time than a minute and a half to get into the weeds that were brought up by Ms. Salas, technical details. But I will say that you have to make tough decisions as a council person, as a mayor. You have to know when to when to make a decision to move something forward and not to throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. In other words, there was a situation where if this substation was not moved to the predestined industrial neighborhood where it was supposed to be moved, we risked slowing down the project and going back out for another year or two of regulatory permissions. So I applaud our city staff, our legal staff, our city manager's staff for working with the PUC and then with the Coastal Commission to ensure that even though we can't always expect to have everything we want perfect, so you can't get in the way of progress by insisting on perfections and sometimes unrealistic. So I am happy
Thank you,
with
Ms.
the $2.5 million that the Nature Center got as part of that.